So these were the major governor generals till the beginning of 20th century. Now let us quickly review the socio-religious reform movements. Okay, why do we need socio-religious reform movement? These socio-religious reforms were required, number one, to recast the religion. Because in India, the problem was we were having various faiths. We had followers of Hinduism, Islam, Sikh, Parsi, and even Christianity. Christianity was the most forward religion by the early 19th century, but majority of them, they were lagging behind. And as a result of this lagging behind of religion, it was also hindering the social reforms. Like all the customs which were sanctioned by the religion, they were affecting the life of women. Like if you see the tradition of sati, from where did this tradition of sati came? It came from religious practices. If these practices were not there, doing the social reforms were easy. That's why in order to bring in social reforms, we needed to reform religion first. And all the important personalities, if you see Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Young Bengal movement, or if we talk about later on Swami Dayanand Saraswati or Swami Vivekananda, all of them, they were trying to recast the Hinduism. Similarly, if we see Islam, so Syed Ahmad Khan, he was going to work for it, or for among Sikhs, there was a Gurudwara movement. Among the Parsis, we see the Nana Bhai Naroji, who worked for the reforms in the Parsi religion. So, socio-religious reform movement having one major target, and that was social reform. But these reforms will only happen when the religion is reformed. So, इसलिए पहले किसको target करना पड़ा? Religion, and through religion we see go towards social reforms. One important thing which all of you should remember is these social reforms also became the source of cultural nationalism. Try to understand this, because British were ruling us and they made us feel very bad about ourselves. They were telling us that we are not a civilization, we are barbaric people, we need support of the British, and then only we can go towards self-governance. So we needed to revive our own culture, and wherever we have seen the rise of nationalism, the first nationalism, it is always for the defense of our culture. Culture को defend करने के लिए सबसे पहले लोग आते हैं, and that's why in India the first form of nationalism, it is linked to socio-religious reform movement. This was the first form of nationalism. Nationalism has various shades. Nationalism has political character. Like when we talk about Indian National Congress, that was the political setup. It has economic shades, like when we talk about drain of theory, drain of wealth. So the drain theory, it talks about how the British, they were exploiting us. When we talk about socio-cultural nationalism, we were trying to defend our own culture as well as ensuring that people are not converting into Christianity because of feeling bad about themselves. So religious nationalism also came into the picture. So various forms of nationalism has developed in India, but one of the earliest one to rise, it was the socio-cultural nationalism. And with the period of time, we see rise of economic, and then finally we see the rise of political nationalism. So that's why nationalism has various waves in India. वो हमें समझनी पड़ेंगी धीरे-धीरे करके, ठीक है? So anyway, the social-religious reforms in India, one of the tallest figure for this is Raja Ram Mohan Roy. When we talk about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, we have to understand he was one of the earliest person to use the word Hinduism. In fact, he used it for the first time in 1816, 1817. First person to use it. The word Hindu was already utilized later on. Okay, that was used by the Arabs. But using the word Hinduism in the literal sense, that was done by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. If we see his ideas, okay, all these reform movements, they were trying to become integral part of modern Indian history. As I've told you, modern word means modern institutions, and those institutions, they were linked to social religious reforms. led by reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Vivekanand, and they were influenced by the liberal ideas from the West. If we see French Revolution was a believer in equality, liberty, and fraternity. Okay, so that these kinds of ideas or the principles of enlightenment, which thought that there should be secularism in the life of people. The state should not intervene in religious affairs. That is something which was important. So secularism became important. Similarly, these people also wanted to see that the religion should remain part of private life. It should not be part of public life. Otherwise, there will always be divisions in the society. And plus, there should be less focus on the various kinds of superstitions. Scientific religion was the requirement of 19th century, and this is what these people were trying to achieve. Some of them, they looked for inspiration in the past. Some of them, they looked for inspiration towards the West. And some peoples like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, they blended both West as well as the East. They became the symbol of unification of ideas from both sides. So if we see him, he was the person who established Brahma Samaj. This Brahma Samaj was going to do only one thing, that is to simplify the religion, to reduce the dominance of priestly class, to ensure that people can relatively follow simple rituals. The aim was to purify Hinduism and promote monotheism and consider the first modern nation. Okay, one of the first modern nation we can become, and encourage freedom of thought and rationality. Previously, every part of life was explained by religion. Earth kaise bana? There is a story with respect to this. Okay, how or if any diseases in the life of people they happen, they'll say it is because of this or that kind of problem. So everything required a scientific basis, and that is what they were trying to do. He was proficient in multiple languages and religious texts, advocated unity among religions, blending teachings of Upanishad, Bible as well as Quran. So here what do we see? His ideas were very liberal in nature, and he could identify himself with any of the modern religion. It was not like that he was fixed with his mentality that only Hinduism is the most best one. If we see his contribution, he worked for the abolition of sati. In fact, he gave a lot of petition to Lord William Bentinck, and that's why it was abolished in 1829. He opposed child marriage as well as female infanticide, advocated widow remarriage. Why? Why widow remarriage was advocated? Because if somebody is now not committing sati, their life became very miserable in general. It was like dying every day. They had to live in a secluded place. Thus, as you have seen in the old Hindi movies, like their white sari, and that was synonymous with when somebody's husband died, and they had to live like that, away from all the important events of the family. कोई भी अच्छा occasion होगा तो उस पे उनको अंदर छुप के रहना है. This is what they used to live. That's why one of the way to improve their life was widow remarriage, so that they can live their life comfortably without getting affected by the daily basis humiliation. Female education, it was very important because empowerment was not going to happen unless we have education, and he also advocated for their property right, because it was a patriarchal society, and in patriarchal society lineage is go to from the side of the child or from the male, and along with the property rights. He also supported inter-caste marriages. Why? Because casteism was one of the major factor responsible for hindering patriotism in India. अगर लोगों को साथ लेके आए तो डिविजन को क्या करना पड़ेगा? हटाना पड़ेगा. उसका सबसे अच्छा तरीका क्या है? Intercaste marriages. When people can freely dine with each other, they can talk with each other, they can study together, and that happens easily when there are intercaste marriages. So lots of reforms he contributed. Education initiative, he founded Hindu college. Okay. Then he also established schools for girls, advocacy for press freedom. He was also founder of Samvad Qaumdi. He was also writing Persian weekly Miratul Akbar, and he in fact died in 1833. He died at a very young age. That's why he could not finish off all the undertaking that he had taken, and eventually later on we'll see the rise of other things. So if we see his legacy, his contribution laid the groundwork for the reforms in India, and his effort towards social equality, education and press freedom continue to inspire generation. And in general, if you see, he is considered the father of modern India, because it was a society which was very backward, and that backward society required some masiha, and he eventually became one. And from him, inspiration was taken by many people. which includes Ishwar Chandra Vidyasakar, which includes young Derosians. Many people took inspiration from him. And with the period of time, we see reformation of Indian society. When we talk about Young Bengal movement, this Young Bengal movement was led by one person. His name was Henry Vivian Derosio, and he was teaching in the Hindu college. He was the founder of this, born in 1809, taught in Hindu college, and he died of cholera in 1833. In between his lifespan, he used to communicate with his students and used to give the, or in fact pass on the ideas of French Revolution. He was very much affected by the ideas of French Revolution. They in fact attacked old tradition as well as the customs. But the biggest problem with this Young Bengal movement was it was too radical in nature. Okay, when you want people to reform, one method is to help them. Incremental reforms are done. But if you are eventually going for completely boycott of those people, sometimes it may lead to backlash. And that's the same thing which happened to them. Even though they were very forward looking, they advocated women's rights, education, they founded an association and organized debate against idol worship, casteism as well as superstition. In fact, they used to eat beef just to show in the society it's not a taboo. But sometimes it gets counterback. So counter इसलिए हो जाता है because if you do something which is completely non-acceptable in a society, people are not going to see even the good things in your character. They will always see you as somebody who is a revolutionary. That's why they could not succeed very much. But in general, they did have a good contribution toward the reform movement. Then we have some people like Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, he was going to start one of the most important movement known as Arya Samaj from Bombay in 1875. He was from the area of Kathiawar in Gujarat, and if you see the trend, his trend was that of revivalist. Why revivalist? Because he was trying to see modernity in Vedas. If in the first class itself I told you the concept of modernity versus modern India. Modernity means some elements, okay, of forward or progress may be found in the past. So this is what he was trying to say. So he said that Vedas were the ultimate source of true knowledge, and that's why I hope all of you know the famous adage known as go back to Vedas. That is what he used to say, and that's why he opposed idol worship, child marriage, caste system based on birth. Why? Because these things were not present during the Vedic society. They became based upon the birth later on. Initially they were only on the basis of occupation, उनके occupation के basis पे था. So intercaste marriages and widow remarriage, all of them were encouraged, initiated. Later on, Shuddhi movement was started because those people who converted to different religion from Hinduism, they were brought back, and they also wrote this famous text known as Satyarth Prakash, and many people read it even till today. And this talks about the ideas of Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Then the Arya Samaj gained prominence, especially in Punjab area, and later on Haryana. Haryana has a very big impact of Arya Samaj, and that's why many people are vegetarian. If you see 60-70, more than 70% people are vegetarian here. Expanded influence across India, played significant role in spread of education, and in fact the chain of DAV school, Dhyanand Anglo Vedic school, that was also started from Lahore onwards. And if we see with respect to nationalism, he contributed to the nationalist movement a lot. Why? Because it was he who said India is for Indians. In fact, he was one of the first person to use the word Swaraj. UPSC asked this question many times, that how did the initial nationalism could be seen in the social religious reform movements. Why? Because they were trying to defend India's culture. And when you try to defend India's culture, what you will do? You will try to strengthen its identity. That's why he says India is for Indians, and he asked for Swaraj, and we should not be under the rule of others. Okay. In fact, many Arya Samaj personalities like Lala Lajpat Rai actively participated in the India's freedom struggle, and that's why we say that in general Swami Dayanand Saraswati as well as Arya Samaj, they had a profound impact on India as well as the rise of nationalism. So even though he was a revivalist, at the same time he strengthened the India's identity. Then if we see Pratna Samaj, okay, so Pratna Samaj, it was very much linked to Brahm Samaj, and it was founded in 1867. It was founded by Dr. Atmaram Pandurang, and later on many other personalities joined in, like M.G. Ranade in 1870 and R.G. Bhandarkar also by 1870. What was the origin? The origin was ensuring reform movement in Hinduism influenced by Brahm Samaj. And what did they focus on? Interdining, intermarriage, widow remarriage, as well as upliftment of women as well as lower caste. In fact, they used to accept food from the lower caste just to show other people that there is no need to feel that you cannot accept and eat it, because in general it was a taboo that you cannot accept food from the lower caste. All such activities were done by them. And R.G. Bhandarkar, he even promoted social reforms and education and founded the Deccan Education Society. So Pratna Samaj became very famous in the area of Maharashtra. Theosophical Society. This society initially was founded in New York. It was founded by H.P. Blavatsky, a Russian lady, along with Henry Olcott. This one of its headquarters, it was founded in India, okay, and the main objective was to form a universal brotherhood of man without any distinction of race, color or creed. They founded their headquarters in 1882 at Adyar. Later on, the most important person linked with it was Annie Besant. So in 1893, she took the leadership, and that's how she publicized it. She was also involved in opening up the Central Hindu School, which eventually took the form of Banaras Hindu University. This was opened by her along with Madan Mohan Malviya. दोनों ने मिलके open किया था. And she later on became a very important part, and she eventually was of which kind of nationalism? Extremist nationalism. And she led the Home Rule movement and also became the first woman to lead the presidentship of Indian National Congress in 1917, for the first time. Then Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, he was born in Bengal, okay, and he was head Pandit of the Bengali department of Fort William College. He believed in education. He used to say that there is only one way we can reform the society, and that is through education. Without education, nothing can be done. Founded the schools for the girls. He also helped one of the Englishmen in founding the Bethune School. Okay, this Bethune School was specifically for the girls. Then he also founded Metropolitan Institution in Calcutta. Try to understand that many of these facts, like Bethune School was founded by which of the following social reformer. ये prelims में question आते हैं इस type के questions. तो आपको ये facts याद रखने हैं किसका किससे linkage है. And his major success, it came with the passing of Widow Remarriage Act. Okay, in fact, he advocated it to his son also, and his son also married a widow. He opposed child marriage, okay, and he was awarded the title of Vidyasagar for his contribution to education. Word वहीं से आता है. Vidya means education, Sagar means ocean of education. So that is what he is famous for. So Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Plus one more important thing which is linked to him, that he worked for the people from the lower caste, allowed them to become part of the schools and colleges so that it can break the monopoly of knowledge which was linked to only Brahmanas at that point of time. Then among the Muslim reform movements, we have some early efforts from 1860s, like Mohammedan Literary Society was opened. However, the most streamlined movement, that was the Aligarh movement. And Aligarh movement, it is linked to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He was focused on social and educational progress for Indian Muslims from 1817 to 1898. Till he was alive, he was working for them. Rational approach to religion. Initially, he was very rational, but later on, he came under the influence of British and in fact told Muslims to stay away from politics. One change you can see, like among the Hindus, the social reform movement, they start from 1820s. Among the Muslims, they start from 1860s. This had a very big impact on the employment status of the Muslims in the government setup. Why? Because the Hindus, they focus towards education early, and that's why एक generation अगर आप पहले start हो जाते हो, so naturally that is going to continue. And as a result of that, there was a middle class among the Hindus, but there was no major middle class among the Muslims. And that thing was going to be utilized by Jinnah later on. As a result of that, we see a partition in 1947. So that's why little bit late, a bit late it was. Initiative that it took: Mohammedan Educational Conference 1866, and then Oriental College of 1875, promoted English education among the Muslim. The reason was very clear, that if they want to become part of the government setup, they have to learn English, they should have access to the modern education for that purpose. Then there were some other schools also among the Muslims which were a bit backward in nature. Like if we see Deoband, this Deoband school, okay, it was a more of a revivalist movement. It was trying to eradicate all the things which were not mentioned in the Quran. So what were they doing? The twin objective, to propagate among the Muslims the pure teachings of Quran. कि Quran की जो main teachings है वही करनी है. And second, Hadith. Hadith means the sayings of Prophet Muhammad. कि only purest things are going to be learned by the Muslims. Everything else is need to be discarded. They want to keep alive the spirit of jihad against the foreign rulers, and the rulers like Mahmud ul Hasan sought to impart a political and intellectual content to these religious ideas, and the liberal interpretation of Islam created a political awakening among its followers. If we see among the Sikh reform movement, we have important reformers like Baba Dayal Das, who founded the Nirankari movement. We also have Baba Ram Singh, who founded the Namdhari movement. But the most important part of the among the Sikhs, it was the Singh Sabhas, which were opened around in Lahore and Amritsar around 1870. Later on, they also established Khalsa College in Amritsar 1892, and later on the Akalis, they start a movement to remove the corrupt priest or the Mahant from the various Gurudwaras, and the British are going to find some specific laws for it. And by 1925, Sikh Gurudwara Act was passed, which broke down the monopoly of these various corrupt Mahants. And Akali later on, as all of us know, Shiromani Akali Dal, it has become a political party. That has become later on. Among the Parsis, okay, they also started this reform association in Bombay by Furdun Naroji as well as SS Bengali in 1851. They advocated about women's education and to reform their marriage customs. In fact, Naroji also published a journal known as Jagat Mitra. This gained momentum later on, and in fact, the Parsis became one of the most forward community in India. And as all of us know, the Tatas were directly linked to this Parsi reform movement. Okay, and their contribution to the India's national development has been immense. So there have been various centers of religious reform movement like Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhan Committee in this area, and Lahore as well as Amritsar, Deoband School, and here we have Arya Samaj. Then in Bengal we have large number of them. In Madras we have Theosophical Society. So in different parts of India, different set of people have contributed to the various kinds of religious reform movement. Similarly, if we go towards Tamil Nadu, here one of the tallest name, it is Saint Ramalinga. He was born very close to Chidambaram, and deep spiritual interest from a young age. He also founded Samarsha Shuddha Samagra Sangha in 1865 for a casteless society. He wanted that there should be no division of the society on the basis of caste. Then settled at Vadalur, teachings focused on love and compassion and caste equality. He also led many literary works which include like Thiru Arutapa, Manu Murai Kant. So various kinds of them are there, and practices include worship of God as light as well as constructed Satya Gyan Sabai, or the Hall of True Wisdom. So Satya Ramalinga, you can remember, he is from around the Chidambaram or very close to the area of Tamil Nadu. Then Shri Vaikunda Swamigal, he is also important, born in the area of Kanyakumari district, okay, and he also preached against the caste system, untouchability, and condemned various religious ceremony. And in fact, his teachings came to be known as Ayavasi. Ayavasi was this, and by the middle of 19th century, Ayavasi came to be recognized as a separate religion and spread in the region of South Travancore. So again, his teachings also became very powerful in South India. The most famous personality in South India, and his name is Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy. He is the most famous personality, and he is linked to one of the most important movement of South India, that is self-respect movement. Okay, so UPSC has asked question on him also. Then his major goal was the upliftment of Dravidians, eradicating Brahminical dominance in social as well as religious sphere. If we see his beliefs and actions, he opposed Varna Ashrama Dharma because it was the basis of the creation of the various kinds of duties for different Varnas, which were like The Brahmana should focus on learning, the Kshatriya should focus on the warfare, the Vaishya should focus on the activities of production, trade, while the Shudra should do only one thing, and that is they serve the upper three Varnas. That's why he was against Varna Ashma Dharma. That's why he was against. He was also opposed to child marriage as well as enforced widowhood, and he promoted intercaste marriages. Self-respect marriages were the marriages without any kind of rituals. Secular names were given to children, and he also criticized the laws of Manu, and he spread these ideas through various Tamil generals, which includes like Tarchi as well as Viduthalai. And finally, he got the title of Periyar in 1938, and even UNESCO called him the Socrates of South Asia. Somebody who is a very high thinker is given the title of Socrates. Hi, a very good evening to all of you. I'm Vikas Ahlawat. I'm a former civil servant. I was able to crack UPSC twice. In fact, in 2018, I was able to get highest marks in history optional, and they were around 324. So this year, I'm coming up with a series which I am calling Self-Study History Optional. इस series में 100 से ज़्यादा वीडियो होने वाले हैं, which are going to cover the different nuances of ancient, medieval, modern as well as world history. So those of you who are preparing for 2025, register करिए and try to get the maximum out of this specific initiative of ours. So at Prepcareer IAS, we are producing results from last many years. 2023 में बहुत सारे टॉपर्स हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट से थे. 2022, 21 हर साल बहुत अच्छे टॉपर्स यहाँ से निकले हैं, and they have been able to get very good marks in history optional. So those of you who are thinking कि यार start करके कितना कर पाएंगे कितना नहीं कर पाएंगे, we already have achievements with us. I was able to achieve, my students are achieving, and you can be the next. इन सेशंस में क्या होने वाला है? नंबर 1 विल बी फोकसिंग ऑन फाउंडेशन ऑफ बेसिक कंसेप्ट्स, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम व्हाट इज हिस्ट्री, व्हाट इज हिस्टोरिकल पीरियड, व्हाट इज प्रोटो हिस्ट्री, व्हाट इज प्री हिस्ट्री, बेसिक लेवल. ओके. सेकंड, अलाइनमेंट विद यूपीएससी सिलेबस. जितना भी हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल का सिलेबस है वो 51 पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड है. सो वी आर गोइंग टू अलाइन ईच एंड एवरी कंसेप्ट विद द सिलेबस इटसेल्फ. नंबर 3, वी आर गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन आंसर राइटिंग. ऑल ऑफ यू नो कि जो मेंस है वो ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं होता है, वो सब्जेक्टिव लेवल पे होता है, और आप सब लोगों को आंसर राइटिंग सीखना शुरू करना पड़ेगा, है ना. वी डू नॉट हैव टू मच ऑफ टाइम, तो स्टार्टिंग से ही आंसर राइटिंग शुरू करेंगे. एंड नंबर 4, द ओवरऑल पैकेज इज़ वेरी हॉलिस्टिक इन नेचर. तो अगर आप इसको अच्छे से कर लेते हैं तो जो बेसिक लेवल फाउंडेशन हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल की वो कंप्लीट हो जाएगी. यू आर गोइंग टू गेट मैनी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स अलॉन्ग विद दिस. ओके. 100+ सेशन है, चारों पार्ट कवर होंगे. थीम वाइज सेग्रीगेटेड डायग्राम, फ्लो चार्ट, जितने भी इंपॉर्टेंट एनसीईआरटीज हैं. देखो, अगर हम सारी एनसीईआरटीज को कंबाइन कर दें, एंशिएंट, मिडेवल, मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड ऑफ वेरियस बोर्ड्स ऑफ इंडिया, तो 25 से 26 एनसीईआरटी निकल के आती हैं. उन सबको हमने कोहेरेंट फॉर्म में डिज़ाइन किया है सो दैट यू कैन लर्न द बेस्ट फ्रॉम दैट. ओके. बिकॉज देखो, हिस्ट्री में रिसर्चेज चलती रहती हैं. अभी तमिलनाडु की जो एनसीईआरटीज हैं, दे आर मोर इंपॉर्टेंट इन कंपेरिजन टू द रीसेंट हिस्ट्री देन द प्रीवियस हिस्ट्री जो कि आर.एस. शर्मा वगैरह, सतीश चंद्रा या फिर बिपिन चंद्रा ने लिखी हैं. दैट्स वाई वी आर कवरिंग ऑल द एनसीईआरटीज, एंड दैट्स वाई 100+ सेशंस हो जा रहे हैं टोटल मिला के. देन 30+ वैल्यू एडेड आपको डॉक्यूमेंट मिलने वाले हैं. डेडिकेटेड आंसर राइटिंग सेशन मिलेंगे. जूम सेशंस भी करेंगे बाद में, ताकि आप लोगों की जितनी भी डाउट्स हों विद रिस्पेक्ट टू लर्निंग दे कुड बी सॉल्व्ड. ओवरऑल जो है आपको क्लास की पीपीटीज मिलेंगी, कंसेप्ट लिस्ट मिलेगा, पीवाईक्यूज, जितने भी पीवाईक्यूज हैं उनको अच्छे से हमने डिज़ाइन कर दिया ताकि आप सब उनको अच्छे से पढ़ सकें. माइंड मैप मिलेंगे पूरे सिलेबस के, वर्कबुक और लर्निंग असाइनमेंट्स मिलेंगे, एंड सेल्फ असेसमेंट टेस्ट, सो दैट वंस यू लर्न समथिंग तो साथ में उसको एटलीस्ट इवेल्युएट भी करना चाहिए ना, कि भाई हमें कुछ समझ में आया भी है नहीं आया, एटलीस्ट जितना रिक्वायर्ड है वहाँ तक पहुँचे हैं या फिर नहीं पहुँचे हैं. तो आपको करना क्या है, व्हाट वी नीड टू डू दैट, सबसे पहले आप रजिस्टर कर लीजिए. ठीक है. आपको एक स्पेसिफिक गूगल शीट मिलेगा, उसमें आप रजिस्टर कर लीजिए. देन एज ऑल ऑफ अस अंडरस्टैंड, हर किसी के पास लिमिटेड स्लॉट्स हैं, तो आपको एक स्पेसिफिक कॉल आएगा, एंड दैट इज समथिंग विच वी आर कॉलिंग एट स्क्रीनिंग प्रोसेस. बिकॉज अगर हमें आपको ये सारी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करनी है, द नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स विच वी कैन हेल्प दे आर ऑलवेज लिमिटेड इन नेचर. सो अकेडमिक काउंसलर इज गोइंग टू कॉल यू, दे गोइंग टू हेल्प यू, और दे गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है. हो सकता है आप कॉलेज के फर्स्ट ईयर में हो, सेकंड ईयर में, थर्ड ईयर में हो, और यू मे हैव ऑलरेडी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर सम टाइम एंड यू आर नॉट गेटिंग द डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट. तो इसलिए हमें स्क्रीनिंग प्रोसेस चाहिए होगा. एंड फाइनली ऑन द basis of this, you're going to get the benefit of this program.